Hi, this is Indus, founder and CEO of Quolum. Welcome to Quolum Live. Let me introduce the speaker of this session, Shuchi Rana. Shuchi is a senior director at HeadSpin. She was the head of SAP.io's Foundry for Startups program. In this session, she will share a human capital perspective on SaaS growth, including opportunities and risks companies face with multi-generational talent in their organization. She will also touch upon how SaaS can support diversity, inclusion, and culture change. She is joining us from Palo Alto, California.
Been a part of, I guess, the workforce for about 18, 19 years now. And it's definitely changed a lot from when I started to now. And if you look at just HR in particular, it's moved from very kind of checklist driven approach to more of a human centered and experience people care more about experience than just like checking boxes, if you will. So I feel SaaS in particular has played an important role, even from an experience standpoint, from kind of savings standpoint. So if you were to implement a human capital kind of software system 15 years ago, you would have to come up with a lot of capital. And most of the people were just using, I feel, when I started to like 5 or 6 years into my career, it was all Excel spreadsheets. So everything was maintained in Excel. Nobody really cared about diversity, inclusion. And to the point of diversity inclusion, now we see companies hiring chief diversity officers or chief inclusion officers. That title didn't really exist even 10 years ago. So people are starting to think about those things, about what matters, how to bring in a great experience for their employees So it's about creating a great experience. So moving from human capital management to human experience management. So just before joining HeadSpin, I was a part of SAP, a division within SAP called SAP.io, which was the innovation business unit. And I got to work with SuccessFactors, which is the human capital management or HR tech business unit of of SAP. And they started to look at it from an open ecosystem approach. So how do there's a product that we have, but there are still a lot of gaps from providing an end-to-end solution to our customers. How do we fill those gaps based on everything that we're seeing? People have started listening. People have started listening to their employees. They've started listening to their customers. And I think that's one trend that has changed. And in listening, you get a lot of information about what are we missing, right? So that's when opportunity that's where opportunity lies. And so there has been a lot of innovation that has come out of it, from whether it's talent management, whether it's onboarding people, learning and development. There is micro-learning platforms so I've seen innovation across the board from start to end. And I've been fortunate to work with during my time at SAP in particular. And that's when I kind of got into understanding what the HR tech landscape looks like and how people are innovating. I got to work with quite a few companies working in, again, the L&D space, hiring, recruiting, to more focused on experience. Like, how do we make it a great experience for our employees and listen to our employees while they're employed, and even bring in a great experience from even before they become an employee, right? The onboarding process, and to your point of the need to constantly upskill. And these are the times that we live in where, I don't know, the skill sets become obsolete within a few years, right? So how do we make sure our employees are upskilled and are up to date with the trends, if you will? I think it definitely, the Gen Z definitely benefits the most, I would say. But I think the adoption is pretty wide. And I feel COVID, if anything, has expedited that, right? Because people have to, with us working from our homes, having not even have, we can't even, a lot of people can't go out to buy groceries. So it's across the board. It's not just the adoption of technology has definitely changed over time. But Gen Z, I feel, is like they're digital natives, right? They were born with technology. I feel like my generation probably is the last generation that knew what it was like before technology and how technology has evolved and changed my life, right? So, but for them, they don't know what it was like before technology. So I think they tend to, they're also, they're probably the ones who they have the fastest learning curve, if you will, where because they know technology they pretty well, it's easier for them to adopt versus like the boomers or generations kind of before me, where they're having to adopt new technologies, but they're slower, I would say, too, because it doesn't come naturally to them. So I feel that's where there's opportunity that lies there, right? Because there's a whole set of population that was never the target audience for a lot of people. But now I feel we live in times where they have to. So I think depending on the kind of company that we're talking about, like if you look at traditional LMS systems, a lot of larger enterprises still have those in place, where it's still, I mean, coming from SAP, it really was not that, nothing against SAP or the systems that they have in place, but I'm generalizing for a lot of larger enterprises that there is a need for innovation. There is a need to upgrade their systems. There's a need to meet the employees where they are, where what they see outside the company is different from what the company, some of the larger companies still have in place. And that's a part of their own digital transformation journeys, right? Which a lot of companies are going through. And having been at SAP, I think I got to see that very closely and be a part of those journeys through the startups that we brought in, whether it was HR tech or any sort of technology that you could possibly think of. So the adoption rate, I feel, is increasing. And like back to one of the companies that I worked with, Nobi, which is a micro learning platform. So it's a delivery platform. So I feel like a lot of startups are starting to rethink how do you deliver it such that it's kind of bite-sized, so people can, and mobiles become really big. So through mobile phones, like mobile adoption, especially I feel like in Asia, Southeast Asia, and other countries more so in the US, but US is catching up from a mobile adoption standpoint, I feel. So I think mobile is one thing that companies in the L&D space are looking for. So there's a lot of content that already exists within these LMS systems, to just pick like one example, but how do you make it such that the delivery is bite-sized and people can, instead of having to sit in front of the screen for 2 hours, it's like, how do I make that process more enjoyable, if you will, and more interactive, if you will, where I'm learning at the same time. It's like learning in a different way, where I'm engaging with the platform, it's not just like I'm being told. So I feel, especially in the diversity and inclusion arena, one of the things that we're constantly up against is mindset. So you might give people the tools, but unless they have the mindset to make that shift, if you will, and which comes with Gen Z, because they are all about diversity and inclusion, right? But it's my generation, or probably generations before me, that are still, I feel there's a lot of change that needs to happen from a mindset standpoint. So you can give them all the tools. One of the companies that I worked with was Blendor, and Blendor, what that did was diversity and inclusion focused. And they would take like things like the name, gender, and anything else that would that would have my biases kick in. So for instance, if I don't want to hire a particular gender or a particular race, then if that information is taken out, I may be able to make an unbiased decision towards hiring, where I look at just the resume, just the skill set that that person has, right? But again, that person before getting hired has to go through a lot of, its resume is one step, but then there's going to be interviews, there's going to be a lot of different things before that person gets hired. So how do we make that process kind of I don't know, more inclusive and diverse, where people are open to? So I think we have to, yeah, how do we fight bias, right? So that's the, and that's the core of a lot of things, even talking about like AI, like ethical AI. So these are the things, like, how do we change the things that are human dependent? I think one of the things AI does, and with all the systems or even robots and everything else, it takes the mundane and the boring tasks from away from humans, where they can focus on creativity, they can focus on problem solving, they can focus on the emotional, like side of things, and probably a mix of, because human intervention, I feel, will be required for some time, for at least until I'm alive. I mean, at least in my lifetime. So it won't be a completely, but I think a human and AI kind of combo can be super powerful from a scalability standpoint, from a volume standpoint, from perhaps even like some of the dangerous jobs that a human possibly would not want to do but is forced to do. So they can focus their energy and their skill set on something better, if you will. And I was working with one of my one of the startups that I worked with at IO. So they got picked for Salesforce has this ocean cleanup initiative. So their technology. So when you're talking like that scale at that level, I think AI can definitely play a big role. Well, there's one technology that I really liked, but I don't necessarily use it, but I think it can be, for instance, it's called Cultivate, and it's a layer of intelligence that sits on top of all of our communication channels. So what it does is, if I, as a manager, am emailing Amit more than I am emailing, I'm just picking like names here, or my other kind of colleague, then why is that happening? So it helps you make a better manager, like yourself, a better manager, if you will. So it provides you insights based on your communication trends that it's seeing. Could be any channel, could be Slack, could be emails, could be messages, whatever you basically give access to. So it's a layer of intelligence. So I think that helps me become more self-aware, if you will. And just it's very eye-opening. It's like, oh my God, I didn't even think. That was like, that I wasn't responding to Amit, and I was responding to this other person more. But then it helps you become better. So things like that, I feel, absolutely. I don't know if there's any technology that I hate to the extent that I'm never going to use it. Nothing really comes to mind. I think it's my I am a finance person by training, right? So I'm always looking at where are we spending? How are we? So that's something that's always running the back of my mind, because I just can't turn it off, because that's what I was trained in. But to be able to, I think it's, especially the stage, depends on the stage of the companies as well. So to be able to identify the tools that you can benefit the most from, and to look at the ROI as to what my ROI is, and what is that particular tool bringing to my business, whether it's efficiency, whether it's insights, and what do I value at any given point in time. I think this is as collectively as a team, because sometimes what happens is teams are not aligned. They get tools. One team would be using one, the other team would be using, and there's no collective decision making that happens. So teams or people tend to work in their own silos, if you will, and make decisions on their own. So I think at the end of the day, to come together as a team and make decisions and all of us have it in us, right? It's no like rocket science to figure out what works and what doesn't. So I think it's coming together that sometimes is difficult. Thank you for including me.